Hello, everyone. Welcome to another 2023 FallDocs screening. My name is Armando Zamudio, and I am the Public Programs and Events Coordinator here at IDA. For our blind and low vision attendees, I'm going to describe myself. I am a light-skinned Mexican-American wearing a white t-shirt, a black jacket, glasses, and standing in front of a white wall. Thank you to our media sponsors, KCRW and Variety, for sponsoring our 2023 FallDocs. This evening, we'll have a conversation between film journalist Robert Abele, co-director Camilla Hall, co-director Jennifer Tiexiera, and producer Margie Ratliff, whose film Subject premiered at Tribeca 2022. To see more amazing films like this, please visit www.documentary.org/FallDocs. Now, before we get started, I would like to offer a brief land acknowledgement. We recognize the Gabrielino Tongva as the past, present, and future caretakers of the land, water, and cultural resources in the unceded territory of Los Angeles. Thank you so much to Andrea Lust for ASL interpreting this discussion. And with that, I'll pass it on to Robert. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Abele. I'm a Los Angeles-based film critic and journalist, and I'm here to conduct a panel on the wonderful film Subject with its filmmakers, Camilla Hall and Jennifer Tiexiera, the co-directors, and producer Margie Ratliff. For our blind and low vision attendees, let you know that I am a white male with glasses and a beard, a light colored shirt, and short hair, and I'm in front of a very packed bookcase. Camilla?
Hi, my name's Camilla. I'm co-director on the film. My pronouns are she, her. And for the visually impaired, I'm a blonde, white female with tortoiseshell glasses, and I'm sitting in front of a window with a beautiful view of the small town I'm in Holland, where we're presenting the film today.
I'll go next. My name is Jen. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a Mexican-American female with long dark hair and dark skin. And I'm also in Holland, but don't have the beautiful view. I'm in a smaller room with a bed and a curtain.
Hi, I'm Margie. My pronouns are she, her. And I am a white-skinned woman with blonde hair and a white shirt with the blue sweater and a very colorful background of patterned squares.
Well, thank you all for doing this and talking about, I mean, there's so much to talk about with a movie like this. And needless to say, also documentaries about documentaries are not common. So yeah, how does a project like this spark, germinate, gestate, whatever developmental word you feel is appropriate?
Yeah, I think it really started with a lot of reflection on our own work and really kind of thinking about the kind of films that we'd made and some of the questions and challenges and difficulties and even mistakes that we had made in the past. And, you know, we started to think about a lot of these ethical questions that we were grappling with. And around the same time, I actually had the idea of the title of the film Subject really early on. We always thought that word was just very kind of poignant and kind of provocative in some ways. And so while we'd been thinking about this idea and really kind of talking together as filmmakers, out of the blue, just received this email from a friend, a mutual friend of Margie and I. And it was actually one of the editors on The Staircase. And he messaged and said, Margie's in LA. She's really interested to move into producing documentaries and working full time in documentary. She studied documentary, but, you know, would you have time to meet with her for a coffee? And it was kind of just one of those crazy moments from the universe where you have this idea and then this kind of incredible person just arrives in front of you. And so, we went and sat in a coffee shop in LA, and I listened to what Margie was interested in, and I kind of said to her, what do you think about this idea? It's in the very early stages. Like, is it crazy? Do you think this is something worthwhile? And I think really her response to it and her feedback from day one was just so strong and powerful. And it was very clear that she kind of almost gave us the kind of green light to start in this process, and to really feel that there was value, and that it was a story that kind of needed to be told. And that was really, the turning point for when it changed from an idea into, let's really make a documentary about this.
You want to comment, Margie, on that, or Jen, you want to weigh in?
Yes, I think, and what a journey it's been for the past almost 2 years touring with the film. When I met Camilla, there was no way that I knew what this film would turn into. And I met her about 5 days before Netflix released The Staircase, the old episodes and 3 newer ones, in over 200 countries. So I was at a moment where I was really scared, and my family, we just wanted to hide. And Camilla, when I told her about Netflix, she stopped and she held my hand and she said, "How are you going to take care of yourself?" And in that moment, I knew that maybe there was something to this story she was telling me. And maybe this was something that my family and I could change the story and change the script and help some other people also.
Jen, when did you get involved?
I got involved also pretty early on, right around the time that Camilla was meeting Margie. I came at it Camilla and I met back in 2017 at the Tribeca Film Festival. So it wasn't much after that we started discussing this idea. And for me, Camilla had come from a background in journalism and had made her first film. And so was coming at this whole industry with a whole set of rules, being like, there are no rules. This is crazy. This is the Wild West. Like, this is bonkers. And I was coming into it from a bit of a different position as an editor. I've been an editor. At that point, I'd been an editor for about 15, 17 years, and now 25. And was really having an existential crisis when it came to my career. Like, I felt the better my career was doing, and as I kind of progressed, I felt that some of the questions or decisions I was making were more questionable, more sensationalized. And the big problem I had was I was making these decisions, never meeting the communities or the families or the people at the center of these films, not understanding how they might have felt about the film in the beginning, and how they felt about it now, what their hopes and dreams for the films were, and really kind of making these decisions in the dark and questioning them. And then ultimately that was what pushed me to start producing, being involved much earlier. I still edit, but I also have this open dialogue with the participants at the centers of the films that I work on.
Yeah, a movie like this, you think about documentaries sometimes, especially the ones that are observational, and that is like filmmakers going out just shooting and then maybe talking about what they have later. But this, I imagine the conversations, you were just constantly having conversations about what kind of movie you were making. Can you give me a sense of what those conversations were like? Because I'll bet they were really fascinating to listen to.
I mean, we're still having them. So it's, right. It's not only like there was times and we continue to make all the mistakes under the sun, even in making subject. There was a time when Margie stepped away from filming because we didn't think about how an interview with somebody who had experienced something very similar to what her and her family had gone through would affect her. So, we really figured it out as we went along. For that reason, the participants are also co-producers, because that's the job that they did. They gave us their input creatively. They were really involved in a lot of the big decision-making process. They ultimately had creative control over their sections and helped us shape that and morph that. So, you know, that was some of the big things, but also, you know, we wanted to implement the idea of, you know, our Dr. Camilla Rashad, who's an executive producer, but she was also our participant advocate throughout the whole process, as she's a trained psychologist that would help us have these really tough conversations to make sure, you know, aid us in the process of minimizing any sort of difficult situations or potential re-traumatization.
Yeah, Margie, I imagine just getting involved in a movie like this, you're probably taking a deep breath at the beginning and going, okay, how to go about this, right?
Yeah, I remember having that meeting with Camilla and then going to my post office box on the west side of LA. And that's where I spent a lot of time, was in my car outside of the outside of the post office. And I called each one of my family members and talked it through separately with each one of them. Said, would you be, first of all, do you think I'm crazy to do this? Would you be interested in being a part of it? You know, what would you have any issues if I was a part of it? What are you scared about? How are you feeling about Netflix? And it was a really nice opportunity to just check in with my family members in general, since we all live so far apart, about how we're feeling right now as the Netflix, you know, is coming out for The Staircase. So it was a big deal. It was a big deal to be able to make the decision. And it was a long decision. I think with consent, when you're doing consent right, or when you're feeling like consent is ethical, it's a continued process. So right at the beginning, I said, I don't want to be in it, but I'll film it for the sizzle, and then we can go from there. And then we kept on checking in. And as things were happening in my own life, I said, okay, maybe we do need my family to be in it. So it's a continued process that we did for the, 5 years we were making the film.
And by sizzle, you're referring to the reel that you use to get funding from people and get people interested, right? Camilla, I imagine, like, you're talking about, all the clips in the movie, all documentaries, and you go like, wow, there in a lot of movies about with this kind of issue. How did you guys decide whom to focus on from the recent history of impactful documentaries?
Yeah, I mean, we often mention that this film is really like a love letter to our community and to our industry. Like, it started from a place of loving these documentaries. I mean, if we were going to spend 5 years working on and analyzing and talking to participants, like, we really chose films that had moved us or made this, deep impression on us. And so that was really the starting point for the kind of 5 films at the center of the film, the case studies. And then every single other film, I think there's more than 100, archive clips in the film. And, between Jen, the editor, and I, we have watched every single one of those films. We haven't each individually watched every single one, but between the 3 of us, we'd watched every single film. It was really important that we had seen the films that we were referencing. So yeah, it was a really kind of long and interesting process. But the case studies, in some ways, obviously the starting point was this point of love and admiration for those films. And then it was really thinking about the types of genres. We knew we wanted to look into true crime as a genre because it's become so dominant and there are so many issues related to true crime. So that was clear, that when I watched Capturing the Friedmans, it was a moment that kind of changed the way I thought about the world. I'd never had that experience in a cinema of just feeling so confused, so just wondering what is the truth, what's not the truth. I just had never had such a visceral experience watching a film before. So it always stayed with me. And then for Jen, Hoop Dreams was just, just the reason she wanted to make documentaries and the reason she became a documentary filmmaker. And then I'd spent a lot of time in Egypt, and The Square was, again, just a film that I thought was enormously important in a country that is trying to erase the history of what happened during the Egyptian Revolution. I thought it was incredibly brave to look at the stakes of someone like Ahmed, who had become the face of a revolution that was ultimately overturned.
Jen, do you want to weigh in on that process?
Yeah, we definitely wanted that international voice. We were the Wolf Pack. We had a connection to through some really good friends. And so I had been kind of following Mukunda's evolution after the film, and Suzanne's as well, from afar, and I mean, we have to say, like, you know, these were all participants of documentaries for a reason, right? They're extraordinary human beings. You can't take your eyes off of them. They light up a room. So it was, you can imagine the joy, and then having them all together. We always call it our odd little family, because all of them together, it is quite a family. You know, we've done multiple festivals and town halls, and them all speaking about their personal experiences is extraordinary. We've learned so much about them. But yeah, it's even the films that we chose to place throughout the film. Again, it's definitely from a deep place of admiration and just respect. And I mean, I think we've been asked a couple times, well, why didn't you use your own films? And, you know, we're like, well, you know, they're just not good enough, you know? So, well, I mean, when we were starting out, you know, it was just like, these were films that really, you know, just defined our industry in so many ways. And so, you know, we really wanted to make sure, and that's another reason why we want to be very clear, like, this is not an expose in any sort of ways. It's a conversation about an industry that we love very, very much, and how, you know, we can be better.
No, the tone is really the tone is key to that, something like this, right? Because otherwise, you know, somebody's looking at it going, "Are you taking these films to task, or are you saying no?" I think you're saying these movies are complicated. I mean, you have, like, on the one hand, Margie's been through this experience and wants to make documentaries, and Mukunda has been through this experience and doesn't want to make documentaries, which is, like, interesting in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, talk about the decision though of the filmmakers not being interviewed in the film, and how that came about, and you know, what you feel like that brought to this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was actually a question that we talked about throughout the entire filmmaking process. And I think it was, you know, we kept kind of having that conversation to see, you know, whether it was something that we needed, what we felt about it. We would keep checking in. And I think for us, we really reached the conclusion that, you know, directors have a platform. You know, through the release of the film, you know, we often have the microphone. And we felt in some ways that participants had just not had this opportunity to speak freely about their experiences. And it was something that we just really needed to hear. Even panels and discussions about filmmaking, it's often filmmakers that are talking within themselves, as opposed to participants who are really sharing with us in terms of their experience and how we could shift some of the things that we're doing as filmmakers. So, you know, that was really important to us. But at the same time, we did really want the feedback of the directors. And we understand as filmmakers that it could be, like, very intimidating or very uncomfortable to have your film picked apart or your work picked apart. And so we understood that was, you know, a potentially difficult process. And so it was really important to us to be in touch with the directors. Ultimately, they all had the opportunity to watch the rough cut of the film and actually give and feedback notes. And I think we were pretty much able to, you know, take on board as many of those notes as we could. And it was really like a workshopping where, you know, we really talked through things that we were getting right, things that maybe we weren't getting right from their perspective, and really trying to reach an edit that, you know, made sense for everybody involved. So even just the rough cut itself, the initial rough cut first went to the co-producer participants of the film. It went to all of the experts that are interviewed in the film, which are many people obviously from our filmmaking community, and the original directors of the films. And then we did more workshops in LA after that with more filmmakers in our community. And so we wanted this to be as reflective as possible of the community, obviously, that we're a part of and that we love and that we're working in. And also, just to be clear that, you know, we didn't want to make a didactic film or pretend that we have all the answers to these problems. We just wanted to say, look, these are some of the challenges that we're facing. Our industry's changed a lot with the streamers entering the space. And, you know, we need to be having these conversations and supporting each other to be able to have them openly.
Margie, was it interesting to see other filmmakers like, you know, Chris Johnson and Sam Pollard and Davis Guggenheim talk about their experiences as documentary filmmakers, to kind of help you process what you'd been through?
Yes, it it was really magical meeting all of, many of the people were at our premiere at Tribeca, and meeting them. And it's one thing to see them in the cuts and on screen, but to sit down and have the conversations with Pat Offerheide about IP, and what that means for the staircase and what that means for the nonprofit that I'm forming for participants of documentaries, and really have those real conversations that are more than just a snippet that's in our film. I think that has brought them some of the most grounding experiences for me as a participant, but also as a filmmaker, to go, oh, I'm not crazy. There is a system that's rigged against us as participants.
Yeah, I mean, and were you helpful when it came to the participation of people like Jesse and Ahmed and Mukunda? I imagine you being in this process was helping them to make this movie.
Yes, Jesse still says to this day that there's no way he would have done this film if I hadn't been a part of it. And I think by having that footage of, me right at the beginning and me being vulnerable in such a really delicate time in my life and my family's life, I think Jesse had seen the staircase. He and his family had seen it prior and felt so much kinship, as I did watching Capturing the Friedmans. And so he said, well, okay, Margie's not going to lead me down a path. If she's a part of this, why would there's no reason why she would exploit me. She's been in my shoes in a way. And then having, I think, the two major ones right at the beginning of true crime, that kind of like lightens the load for Hoop Dreams maybe and other films, to go, oh gosh, well, if Margie and Jesse are open to this, I don't have much to lose compared to them. And I think Jennifer and Camilla can speak to that as well.
Oh, please, Jen, yes.
No, you said it so perfectly. I mean, I do think that and again, it was really important for us to sit down with everybody separately and be like, what do you want out of this? And that was a big part of putting the 5 stories together. Each of them, and also not just the actual film itself, but when it came to say the contracts, right? We rewrote their contracts to reflect all the things that, because this wasn't their first rodeo, right? So for someone like Jesse, it was really important that he was aware of like what distribution would look like, who we were talking to, where it was going to go, and he knew to ask for that. And we're like, easy, done. But it was one of those things where it's like, and this is why we're so excited about Margie's nonprofit. It's just offering resources to people who are thinking about being in a documentary that don't have access to legal help, or these conversations, or maybe mental health care if they're a little bit further in, things that you don't necessarily, or just a conversation of what it might be like on the other side of a camera. And historically, releases have been so predatory. It's really great to, step back for a second, like in perpetuity in the universe forever, like that's kind of not okay anymore.
Yeah, as a freelance writer, I see those contracts, when you're like, you see in perpetuity, and you're like, really? It's like but
and just to make sure, just so the universe, not here.
Right, it's the universe. No, so what's the way forward? I mean, Margie's nonprofit sounds like one way. What's another, what are the things that you want to see, the ethical ways you want to see?
Well, we're just scratching the surface. I mean, we're very lucky that
Nonfiction filmmaking go from here.
Oh, sorry, I think there's a stall.
Oh,
Robert, do you mind just taking it back from the beginning of that question? You back for a second. Just
absolutely.
Wait like 3 seconds and then ask the question.
Okay.
Thanks.
So what's the way forward then for documentary filmmaking? I mean, obviously Margie's nonprofit is one thing. What are some of the other things you guys have talked about?
Well, I was going to say that I should just hold back because you can edit that out, right? Because okay, great.
Wait, let's do that one more time. Sorry.
Sorry.
And I'll start again. No worries. 3 seconds.
Okay. No worries.
So what's the way forward then for documentary filmmaking? We have Margie's nonprofit as one way to go. What are the other ways forward for ethical filmmaking in documentaries?
Well, we feel like we're just barely scratching the surface of this. We're really building this off the backs of some of the amazing work that, for example, Sonia Childress and Pat Offerheide, they formed DOG, which is a documentary accountability working group. They have an incredible framework for filmmakers that, I always say, but I've learned more about myself as a filmmaker in that framework than I have, in making films for 20 years. There's just resources now, here in the UK, there's Documentality. The Detroit Narrative Agency has an amazing framework for working with communities. I'm trying to think of more. Cam, Margie.
Pieces Loud as well, the
Loud
nonprofit
is amazing. Yes.
I think what was so exciting is that Subject came out at a time where there'd just been so much incredible work in the kind of academic and nonprofit space that it all kind of like everything managed to come together around the same time. And we've all been helping and working with each other. But essentially, there was this huge body of work that was done that has just been such an enormous resource to us. So yeah, as Jen said, listing the Documentary Accountability Working Group, DOG, the IDA magazine. I mean, we've seen so many incredible articles by Natalie Bullock Brown, by the members of DOG and others, Molly Murphy, people that have really been dedicating their time to changing, the ethical environment of documentary filmmaking. And, we've seen incredible changes as well. We saw Sundance for the first time adding a question to the submissions, which is around participant care. What are you doing to take care of your participants? What is your plan going forward? That was a huge shift that was lobbied for by a lot of those people that were working in this space. We've seen, PBS undertaking a huge change of their ethical guidelines and frameworks, also questioning this idea of journalism versus documentary and where does documentary sit in all of this. And we've had so many conversations in classrooms across the world with young filmmakers, as well as, places like the Shorenstein Center at Harvard, where they're really grappling with this idea of where does documentary fit as a genre? And is it right that documentary follows journalistic principles? Or is this something else that we need to start thinking about new ways of new guidelines essentially to help filmmakers? So we're very grateful to organizations like DOG that have already been doing that, and we're able to point filmmakers in that direction as well.
And when it comes to just watching, the people who watch documentaries, do you feel like what do you want them to take away from it? Because I know that sometimes when I see documentaries, sometimes it's teaching me how to watch it. So what do you want viewers to take away from your movie when they watch documentaries from here on out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we had this like amazing conversation in London during one of our screenings there. And this idea of kind of conscious consumption came up. And we were thinking about Subject and how Subject making it, it's not just for filmmakers, it's for people who love watching documentaries. And we thought about, you think about what you eat, you think about where your clothes are made, how they're made, you think about all these different things in your life, but are you really thinking about what you're consuming in terms of films and documentaries, how they're made, how they're put together? What does it mean to consume so much true crime just before you go to sleep at night? What is that actually doing to you? And so we really wanted people to understand that somebody in a documentary is a real person as a basic kind of starting point, and to have empathy and understanding of that, but also for people to reflect. At the end of the day, our industry has changed so much, and a lot of that has been based on algorithms and the way that algorithms have fed people certain types of documentaries, especially true crime. So we're saying, remember that you have a choice over what you want to watch. Think about what you're watching and be conscious about what you're consuming, because ultimately the audiences will dictate what gets made. So it's a bit of a plea as well to keep independent film alive.
Margie, I'd love to give you the last word. Yeah.
I also find a lot of Q&As, one question that keeps on coming up is, as an audience member, I'm not a filmmaker, as an audience member, how do I know what I'm watching is ethical? And I often say, you can feel it in your gut once you start watching a movie, you can start to go, I wonder if they've seen it. I wonder if they know. And after having watched our film Subject, we give a lens for you to understand those feelings that you have. So you can actually go out and say, do they know that there's a movie about them? Do they, what are the actual participants saying? For the all the content made about Jeffrey Dahmer, the victims' families are all speaking out saying, please stop. And so you can start waking up as an audience and looking at that and going, wait a second, why are we consuming this if the participants are pleading with us to stop?
Well, all I can say is thank you all for really getting this conversation to the next intense level. And Lord knows you could turn this into a series. I know that too many documentary series are out there, but this could be a series, I feel like. And thank you all for making it and bringing this all to light.
Thank you so much.